Hey guys, it's Derek here. Welcome to this TFT Teamfight Tactics mid-set update rundown. I'm here with my friend Chance. Say hi, Chance.
Hi, I'm Chance. I'm a Diamond TFT player.
Yeah, he's a diamond player and he has a lot more experience with the game, and he played in the earlier set, so I figure I'll defer to his experience as much as I can here. We're just going to go over some of the changes that are coming here to TFT in the mid-set update, give our brief thoughts on it, and how we expect it'll shape the meta going forward. And so let's get right to it. Starting off right out of the gate, they are getting rid of Void and all the associated characters. That's Kha'Zix, Cho'Gath, and Vel'Koz. Kha'Zix had recently actually received some buffs where he could be somewhat of a carry, and a lot of the stronger comps featured Void. So pretty big change, but obviously they're going to do a lot to replace it. Does that about sum it up?
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty brutal to a couple comps, but we'll see a little bit more later. But it does hurt like pretty big on infiltrators. Kha'Zix was really nice to have as a 1-star cost infiltrator, um, and somewhat of a carry now, not in the past, but like in the recent patches. Cho'Gath hurts a lot, honestly. I think Cho'Gath is probably the best, if not the second best, I guess, brawler. There's been quite a few changes. Malphite's really good,
Yeah.
but he's just a tank. He doesn't do
Shaq.
anything. But yeah, and then
Who would you say is
Vi.
the best brawler then?
I think Vi is a good contender. Just the backline threat that she can provide as a brawler, and she's super tanky. I mean, you can stack her with like Ionic Sparks and Frozen Hearts, and she's able to pretty much just like slow the entire team and decrease their magic resistance. Um, but otherwise, I think Cho'Gath is just so good. His versatility is really good. I mean, you don't have to even play him in like a brawler blaster comp. You can kind of plug him wherever you see fit. I mean, I've seen him in some rebels in the past, just because you get that brawler stack with the Malphite, and he's just another good utility there.
Yeah, just
Um,
a pretty game-changing ult too, like
yeah,
a cheaper gangplank ult.
right, exactly. Just being able to CC, especially the back line, if you get lucky enough, is just so helpful. Um, but that's the thing with Cho. He's so random, I would think, too. So it's not a huge loss, but it would be nice to kind of keep him around. Vel'Koz, Vel'Koz is just Vel'Koz, honestly.
Yeah, he's been kind of up and down the lasers.
Yeah, yeah. So
Remember, I hit gold Vel'Koz one game, and it felt like the strongest thing. He was doing, I think, 2,000 damage a second.
yeah, yeah.
So
If you got 3-star Vel'Koz, he's really good, but outside of that, he's not the best.
yeah, he had a brief moment of dominance with that. What was it called?
Mana Mana
Bat.
Printer Go Brewer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The laser battery comp or whatever it was. So that was pretty
Yeah,
strong for a little bit, but that was really the bulk of it. That most of the time you had, besides, unless you were running Void, you had better options in that slot.
exactly. Yep.
Anything else on Void?
That's all. That's all I think. I mean, I will say Void was a really good trait though.
Yeah.
Being able to do true damage, that was really nice in a meta that could get very very tanky if you stack like Vanguard and Mystics.
Well, they have somewhat of a replacement for that we'll be
Yeah.
getting into later. That's very interesting. So, okay. Next we have the loss of Valkyrie. This one hits actually near and dear to my heart here. So basically, we're losing out on Kaisa, who had actually gotten really strong lately as well as a carry. Kale, who early on in the set, when I first started playing, I pretty much put on every team. She just seemed to fit in every comp. Um, Not super item reliant. Worked well with Chrono. Worked well with Rebels. Like just early on in the set was just my favorite character probably, and then Misfortune, which fits on pretty much any comp as well. Obviously another game-changing ult. Pretty big losses there too. What would you say?
Yeah, I think you touched it really well. Kale and Misfortune really can just splash into almost any comp. And when you do that, then you would obviously just pair it with like another one with the opposite. So, like if you had a Misfortune, you take a Kale. If you had a Kale, you take a Misfortune. Unless, of course, you're doing like an Infiltrator, and then you would just put Kale in to boost up the Kaisa. Or if you happen to hit a Misfortune, you might put that in. But yeah, they were so splashable. Um, I do think it's huge. Kaisa Losing Kaisa isn't honestly bad, but it's like it sucks because again, that's another infiltrator lost.
Yeah.
And it's an early infiltrator. And really, Kaisa's power stemmed from the demolitionist spat,
Yes, I was
and we're
starting to
gonna
see
get
that a
into that.
lot
Yeah,
lately. Yeah.
yeah, and we're gonna get into that, and like we're losing demolitionist spat, but
Yes.
that was her power. Like obviously she could do a lot of damage without it, but when she had it, it was a game changer.
Yeah,
Um,
Demolitionist Spat made a lot of underused characters really strong, and we'll get
yeah,
into that when we actually go into that change. But
exactly. And
that's gonna
then
make a big
Kale,
difference.
and I will say once we get into it too that it is a good thing for another change that's also happening with a 5 cost. So,
Yes,
but
yes.
losing Kale Miss Fortune, um, I really like Kale. I think she was great, but uh, it's kind of said somewhere. I don't know if it was here, but it was said somewhere where it's like Kale would either like tear your team apart or you would tear their team apart with it. So, and same thing with Misfortune. But I will say Misfortune is a huge loss for the blasters. I guess it would just depend a little bit more on how some of the newer blasters are set up,
Yeah, that.
because she was that carry that would get through the vanguards.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and so you don't really have that option at this moment. But maybe some of the shakeups to the new blasters or our current blasters might be able to help us out.
Yeah, they did announce some changes to blasters that may affect that, which we'll see. And it did actually make a trait choice seem a little bit strange to me with getting rid of her, but we'll talk about that as we get to it. Anything else on Valkyrie?
That's all for me.
Another one of my favorites gone, Sona. I can understand she was very centralizing in about the midway of this mid set. She was on pretty much every dominant comp for it seemed like a few weeks there, and I kind of get it. Her cleanse especially was very centralizing, and then obviously she functioned as a mana battery on so many teams. So they mentioned here that Soraka is basically the only healer.
Yeah, I think their wording and how they described getting rid of Sona because of her CC cleanse is actually like not the best way to describe why you're getting rid of her. You already took away her cleansing of Red Buff and Morello,
Yeah,
which was the huge reason for a while Sona was like one of the best units in the game, specifically when what was it, protectors were running wild. Sona was in the back line, and if you 3-star her, I mean, she was constantly healing and she was getting rid of the red buff.
which
So
was the only counter for protectors at the time.
exactly, yeah. And so when they got rid of it, it took a huge hit to protectors. Protectors was still okay, but as soon as you saw like that healing come into play, you literally lost a lot of your matches. But the CC cleanse, it's not there. Like she cleanses it, but there's not a whole lot when she actually does, unless like she started out with some mana and like you face a Cassidon, and even then like Cassidon's leaving. Like I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Like she really didn't cleanse as much CC as it was intended. She was really there for a new rebel or like a 6 rebel or whatever, and then a healer and a mystic. Like
And honestly,
she
I tended
kind
to
of
drop her
lost
a
her
lot.
utility. Yeah, she lost her utility when they got rid of that red buff and Morello change.
Yeah, and when
Um,
I after they especially after they nerfed what was it,
the mana
Chalice.
printer, yeah.
Yeah, after they nerfed Chalice, I wasn't using her as much, and
And see, like,
she was often the rebel that I would drop if I didn't 3-star her.
right, and even then, like, she wasn't even good, but you just put the chalice on her because she was so
Low mana
low
cost, yeah.
mana cost that she constantly just popped it off, um, or constantly ulted. So I mean, it's not like a case that Sona was good. She was there after. I would say after the protector, it was more so the item than the champion at
And
that point.
you can feel that's why they targeted the item at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, next they are, as you mentioned, removing Cassidon. I definitely liked building Cassidon. He wasn't really featured on a whole lot of comps, but when he was fun to watch. Don't really have a whole lot to say on him because, like I said, he only fit on a couple of comps that I actually used. But do you
Right.
have any deeper thoughts on Cassidon?
I thought Cassidon was a really good unit. It was very different. The AOE that they mentioned, it was super cool. But I don't know. He acted as if he should have been um, a carry in that 3 cost role, but he wasn't. he was honestly just a tank and uh, a CC dealer, and that's really it. And then he would die. Uh,
Yeah, he kind of
but
reminded me of
he
how I would
felt
build him in League.
like right, and but he felt like he could have done so much more damage in that way, but it just never got there.
Yeah, he
So
never really met his assassin billing, as it were.
yeah, and just from playing all the way back to set one, back in set one, we had like a similar comp to the blasters. It was called gunslingers. It was the exact same trait, just a different name. Um, with a lot of the same champions too. But with gunslingers, you would actually build the disarm item, so the sword breaker, and you would constantly just disarm champions in the game, and it just felt terrible to play against. You There's no way to get rid of it. It was just you got disarmed and you would die.
That's
Um,
brutal. I've actually been
and
seeing that
so
item a bit more lately.
right,
It's
and
like the
so
best of the bad items.
yeah, I think it's really good in blasters right now, but I wouldn't build it because I'd rather use those item pieces because I mean it's got a chain vest. Chain vest goes into red buff and it goes into GA, so I'd
Yeah,
rather have those.
the
Um,
opportunity cost is too high.
right, and but like if it ever pops up in a carousel and there's nothing else great enough for me to take, or it's last item kind of thing, and maybe I just throw it on an MF or a Ezreal, okay, I'll take it. Like that's fine. But that disarm is just so annoying. So I really do hate disarms. I think it's almost unplayable against. But
Yeah,
Kassadin's really wasn't that bad. I
yeah.
mean, it was a couple seconds, but it wasn't as bad as the Swordbreaker felt.
I found when I did build him, it was really just to get the Mana Reaver buff with
Yep.
when I was running Space Jam.
Yeah, yeah. It was great to get the Mana Reaver buff, and then it was great for the clumps. So like a lot of the comps nowadays are clumping together
Yeah,
almost.
especially
And
with
so like he
Rebels
would just
being
go
back
in
in it.
there and he would just disarm them all. And so then you're just sitting there for 2 to 3 seconds just hitting them hard while they did nothing in return. So, but yeah, I agree. I was mostly in it for the Mana Reaver.
Yeah. This next one, I mean, it makes sense with their explanation. They talk about she's got matching traits with an existing character. It's Lux. She was another staple in that in some of those mana battery builds because she was one of their only sources of CC. But they, as they mentioned, redundant traits with Xerath, and they're adding 3 cost units. So the substitution makes sense to an extent, but obviously we're gonna hate to see her go.
Yeah, I honestly don't think Lux was even good at all. She was a splashable unit in a few comps because of her Dark Star trait. So like mech infiltrators, you'd put her in there, and then maybe later you add a third Dark Star. Or you get lucky and get a Dark Star spat, so then you can try to power up the Shaco. Otherwise, Lux was not that great. I felt like her alt was really weak. It would CC, but just so high mana cost and just took so long to do anything really. But again, this is another portion where like they mention something
Yeah, they
of
allude to
how
something
why
there.
they're well, sort of, but they're like mentioning why they're deleting them, but then they do something completely opposite to why they deleted her. So they're deleting her because she's a two-piece partner with Xerath in 2 separate traits, being that Dark Star Sorcerer. But then later they're going to add a champion that has the exact same traits as another one in both of those traits.
Yeah, there's some
So
inconsistency with their
yeah,
approaches, maybe.
there's definitely some inconsistency with their wording, but I do agree. I think Lux was the best choice to remove out of the 3 star, just because she was kind of useless. In
Yeah,
my
and I
opinion.
think some of those inconsistencies may be attributable to they have. It's not just one dev team. I know they have just one face basically, but you probably have different teams working on different aspects, and
Right,
maybe the right
exactly.
hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, kind of thing.
That's true. That's true.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on some of the champs that we're seeing go bye bye?
I feel like there might be a few others that could have had a good opportunity to leave. Uh,
Yeah,
but I think out of those three, I think Kassadin deserves to stay. But
yeah,
I understand why we're seeing him leave. So
yeah. We'll miss him for sure. Well, this will be more exciting then. We'll go into some of these new champions to existing traits. Um, that'll obviously serve to fill some of the gaps that were left by some of the drops that we just alluded to. Maybe the one I'm most excited about, and this is purely just because she's one of my favorite champions in League, actually returning from both of the previous sets, is Vayne. She's going to be a tier 3 cybernetic sniper. Actually, sniper was interesting to me because in League of Legends, at least, her attack range is so much lower than some of the other characters that are considered snipers. But obviously, from a balance perspective, it makes sense. And from a cybernetic trait perspective, it makes sense. And then we'll talk about a little bit later how it's actually going to affect that sniper trait as well. So, um, Vayne coming into the game, the splash art looks really cool. Obviously matches the cybernetic Vayne. Her ultimate, she's going to focus for 10 seconds, tumbling away from her target immediately, and every third attack thereafter. She's invisible while tumbling, and her first attack after does bonus damage, obviously scaling with her level. And the cool part about this is you don't have to wait for Echo. Echo was probably the worst 5-star unit or tier 5 unit in the game. A lot of people didn't even like building him. You basically only built him to get that cybernetic 6 trait. We'll go into a little bit later that they're significantly buffing Echo with some quality of life and some buffs to make him a lot more playable. But until you luck into him, you have this option of Vayne to fill out that 6 buff, which is going to make that comp a lot more viable earlier. And it's a pretty cool concept in that she drops aggro and she'll still have, I assume, long attack range because she is sniper, so she'll be able to combine uh, that tumble escape with strong auto attacks. And we'll probably talk in a little bit about one of the items you're very likely to build with her that's getting significant buff. So, what else do you have for me on Vayne?
I think you hit it like head on. Is that Vayne is seems like she's going to be really strong. So, I mean, we're not even talking about how much this is actually doing. So, I mean, it's saying 180, 200,
Yeah,
240% of her attack damage after her tumble. But you add that with sniper, and it's a lot more just on that percent damage. So, Vayne is really good. I actually expect Vayne to be one of the new carries of that cybernetic comp. I mean, you can early splash her with a Caitlyn, and heck, you can even keep Caitlyn in and throw in like a Shin now, and have 2 Chrono and 3 Blade Master at that point in that comp. Um, I don't think you get rid of Vayne at all in that comp. I think she's going to be one of the big damage dealers alongside maybe the Irelia, and then even the Echo to come. I think the one that loses out in this comp is actually going to be the Lucian at this point. Lucian does really well, but we might not see Lucian too much anymore.
yeah, sure. Her ability seems to make him somewhat redundant, and obviously, and I'm assuming she's going to have greater range than he does. Yeah, you mentioned 180%, 180%, 200%, 240% for her first attack coming out of tumble. That doesn't even factor in crit damage, which is something we'll get into later,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
crit,
which is
cybernetic, or
effectively,
sniper. Yeah,
yeah. So
I
there's
mean
a lot of stacking there. It's
she's
like
very well rounded to be a super carry out of that comp. So I expect to see some heavy nerfs to her. Honestly,
that would not surprise me at all.
yeah, Vayne's been nerfed in almost every set. I know on set one before she was even released, they like nerfed her and she was unplayable at that point. Um, but later on, they kind of buffed her back, and then in set two, they gave her a buff to where lights were actually super good. And I mean, you would watch her attack, and like a fifth attack would already be going after that first one. She was just attacking so fast if you just stacked her correctly. But she was pretty good. But I expect some nerfs to come out of this.
Yeah, she seems really strong out of the gate. As I mentioned, I'm really excited. She's one of my favorite champions from a look and from a lore perspective. The cybernetic skin on her looks really cool, so I'm excited to see her in player. I even played when I played Diablo 4. I always played Demon Hunter just because I like Vayne so much. So a pretty similar aesthetic. But yeah, she's looking to be very strong and certainly a buff that cybernetic could very well use to give it some increased viability.
I agree.
All right, next we'll get into Zed, Tier 2 Rebel Infiltrator. A lot of the memes that I saw were Zed disappointed that he's coming back, but he's coming back as a Tier 2. Um, his ability is actually a passive. Every third attack deals 20, 40, 80 scaling, bonus magic damage, and steals 25%, 40%, 80% of the target's current attack damage. So that's actually a unique mechanic, at least in this set. You can maybe speak to if they've used it before in previous ones, but he's Rebel Infiltrator, so there's uh, another infiltrator for everybody to use. And one of the unique things that they mention is that normally, obviously, your rebels start up clumped, but he's a rebel that can actually break away from that clump, and he can get into that back line and start reducing their attack damage to hopefully offset some of the buffs that they're getting. So, um, Zed's another one of my favorites from an aesthetic standpoint, so I'm interested to see how that'll translate to the TFT game.
Yeah, so I think this is okay. I mean, you remove a tier 2 infiltrator, but you also removed a tier 1 infiltrator. So I think this is okay in terms of like the infiltrator trait. I think the passive is super cool. This is unique. I don't remember anything else like this, um, but this is pretty cool. And uh, like going back to the vein, I mean, this is a big counter towards like snipers. You're talking about you can get like Zed into the back line and just kind of go after those snipers and steal their AD, and now they're weaker. That's pretty big. So I honestly think even like you wouldn't try to 3-star Zed. You might only try to like 2-star him twice, and then you kind of like
Just have
split
more
him.
shots
And
at it.
so yeah, so he goes at two different uh, snipers. That might be okay in some infiltrator
Yeah, that
comps,
sounds
obviously.
interesting.
Like, but just things like that. But I mean, obviously, if you get him 3-star, he's probably gonna like start one-shotting things, and that 80% is gonna be pretty crazy, especially with the infiltrator passive where they attack a lot faster. So,
Yeah, exactly. Do you
but
see him? And they were kind of vague on their updates to Mech Infiltrator, but do you see him fitting on that comp or purely Rebels or?
I mean, if Mech Infiltrator stays around, then he'll have to pretty much go into that comp because I mean, there's hardly any other infiltrators. I know there's one more addition, but so we lose two and gain two, so we'd have to throw him into that kind of comp. It
I guess
just
especially at that cost, huh?
yeah, and it sucks that there's not a tier 1
Yeah,
because now it's like I have to get a couple more levels so I can try to find a tier 2 because that's going to be there's two infiltrators that are tier 2, so
that's a
it's
late
it's
rolling
just
comp
kind of
as it
odd.
is, and it's
Yeah,
they're making it even more
yeah.
late roll.
And I mean, at that point, you're trying to hit three tier 2s probably to get to 3-star, and then a tier 3, and maybe the Shaco at tier 3. So,
Yeah, and we'll talk
um,
about it later, but they allude to more changes coming for that comp, so maybe it'll help balance it out. We'll see.
but as a rebel, I think it is kind of nice because he immediately gets away from that clump. Um, so if you make him a carry in that kind of lineup, I think it's nice to get him away from the clump because otherwise everything is right there. But we also lose out on things like Kale that would just shred you because Kale would just hit everything at once. But there is still Gangplank, so he might be able to jump away from the Gangplank, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that is nice. All right. Next, we have Riven, Tier 4 Chrono Blade Master. Her ability Energy Slash. She dashes and shields herself for 300, 450, 900. 900 is a huge shield, even at Tier 3. Then slashes forward, dealing 100, 150, or 450 magic damage. Every third cast, she leaps into the air and launches a wave of energy that deals 400, 600, 1800, which is again a huge number of magic damage. But she's a tier 4, so how often are you gonna 3-star her? So Blade Masters have all been pretty similar, they say, and have required similar items. They're trying to change this. By introducing her, who's going to be more reliant on AP scaling to make that shield bigger, to make that magic damage bigger. Interesting because obviously in League you build purely attack damage on her. But so this is a cool approach for Blade Masters, and then obviously gives Crotto another somewhat expensive tool to play with. Um, they mentioned using Ludens, which makes sense because the it augments that splash damage that she already has. So this should be a pretty cool addition. What do you think?
I think Riven is going to be like the new carry. She's going to be one of the best comps to build around. I mean, she's a Chrono Blade Master. We already have Shin, who's a Chrono Blade Master.
Yeah,
So at that point, I have two Chrono. I have two Blade Masters. I just need to splash one more Blade Master in,
like
and
would have been
I'm
Kale.
pretty golden. Yeah, and like Kale would have been great there, but I mean, at this point, like you run like an Irelia or
Yeah.
um, just really any Blade Master, honestly, and she's probably going to do well. So I expect Riven to pretty much be one of the top carries going into this next set.
Could you see
Um,
just to kind of save, you could put Zaya in that role?
yeah, yeah, Zaya could also work, or Fiora as well
Because obviously
for the
Riven's going
one
to be pretty
cost.
expensive.
Yeah, but I think like she's gonna do well. I honestly think how you would build Kale, uh, maybe not like item wise, but like the comp wise, you would do the exact same thing with Riven. Uh, but now you can go like one less Chrono or shoot like they mentioned some buffs to Chrono 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and Chrono 4 like previously is not a trait, like it's terrible.
Yeah,
Um, like you'd rather have 2 than you would 4, and that's
right.
not a good thing at all. Um,
Yeah, luckily that's
and
changing.
right, and so if Chrono 4 is really getting a good buff and it's going to be pretty well, you've already got half of it. So then, I mean, just beef up your front line, throw something in like a Thresh and a or a Blitz. Even Blitz would probably be really crazy good with her, um, and uh, a Vanguard, so Wukong. So you just throw Wukong in, get some tank allowing for her. She's going to be tanky. Those shields are going to help quite a bit,
Those
but
shields are going to be huge
uh,
if you build AP on her. It's going to be
yeah,
like what we ran into with the Poppy Nightmare Zone for a while there.
exactly, exactly. And
But
I know
obviously, it's
that's
going to
something
cost a
that
lot more to build her.
yeah, and a couple of people have mentioned that as well. I think about like she's going to be like Poppy. It's going to be scary, but I think Riven is going to be the carry out of these new 3, alongside Vayne. So
Yeah, she seems suited to be very strong, and yeah, it does give me reminders of that of the Poppy Nightmare Zone that we were running into with those Candy Lane comps, where you would basically
yeah,
just build AP and Bramble on
yeah, and
on
it,
on Poppy.
right, and it kind of reminds me back in like set 1 with the Gunslinger comp. It would be like a Blade Master Gunslinger comp because one of your gunslingers was also a Blade Master and Gangplank. So Gangplank was a 3 cost champion, and he was a pirate blade master gunslinger. So you would end up just building blade masters from that, because you would just splash in a Shin, and you would try to lose early, so then you could get like a spat to try to hope to get the blade master trait, and then you would just build it on like your Tristana or one of your carries. That way, like if it was Tristana, she would just auto like 3 times in a row, and then like spread that damage as well because it actually worked coincided with the gunslinger procs as well. So
Yeah, that
uh,
those are still great to stack. Like I used to love to drop Blade Master Spat on like a Jinx,
yep, yep, exactly.
so probably pretty similar. I mean, I wish we
Yeah,
had a Tristana. I love
and
Tristana.
well, you used to it would be Tristana was the carry, and then when they introduced Jinx, Jinx slowly became that carry. So like you'd build Tristana early, sell her because she was a 1 cost, and then you'd put Jinx in.
And just swap the items over.
Yep, exactly.
That makes sense. That's kind of what you do with well, a lot of people will do with Lucian and Jinx right now.
Yep, yeah.
I like keeping Lucian, but I think most people swap him out. All right, anything else on our new? You already said quite a bit as far as what you expect as far as hard carries. Any other thoughts on the new champions that are coming? We got a lot more new champions to discuss, but those are the ones that they talk about in detail.
Right. I think Chrono, just the trade in general, is going to be really strong now, just with the carry potential that it has.
Yeah, I probably have more games on Chrono than anything else, and I play a lot of games, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Awesome. All right, so the next sets of champs, they're kind of just talking about very generically in terms of new traits and the champions that are going to go along with it. So we should be able to get through these pretty quickly here. Uh, but they're introducing 3 new traits and 11 more champions in addition to the ones that we already mentioned. So huge update here. Starting here is Battle Cast. There's a 2, 4, and a 6 bonus. And Battlecast champions, upon dealing or taking 10 instances of damage, trigger a bonus effect based on their current health. If they're above half health, they deal 75, 150, 225 magic damage to the nearest enemy. If they're below half health, they heal for 75, 150, 225 instead. The champions, well, I guess if you wanted to talk about the trait first, how does that strike you?
Um, I honestly want to see it more. I
Yeah,
think just initially, this upon dealing or taking 10 instances of damage might be too much. 10 seems pretty fast, but like in early stages, that's going to be really poor.
yeah.
But
So
maybe that gets changed just a little bit. But I think it's a kind of cool trait, allowing them to deal magic damage and allowing them to heal just depending on their health.
yeah, context
Uh,
specific.
right. So I think it's a pretty cool trait, and it's actually kind of similar to. Um, was it similar? I don't know. I was thinking Nocturne from set two, but Nocturne was just his ability, and it was his spin, so he would heal constantly. But I feel like there was one more champion that did something kind of like this, almost like a Silas in
Yeah.
League, actually. So something similar to that.
Very cool. Yeah, it's. I think it's cool that it's context specific. Early on in the battle, you're more likely to be doing damage, and then later on, as your health drops, you're more likely to be healing back, and then at that point, dealing magic damage again. As you mentioned, I was kind of thinking the same thing, where it seems like it may not proc very often early on in the game, but then late in the game, it's going to be pretty nuts, which I think is what
Yeah,
they expect.
yeah, and that might be what they're expecting, just a kind of slow, methodical process with this kind of comp.
So
Uh,
champions. Oh, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
no. We're getting into champions. I was gonna bring up a champion anyway. So
Yeah, the champions are introducing a tier one brawler, so you get another brawler in Alawi. Tier two infiltrator, there's your infiltrator you were mentioning, Nocturne. Tier two blaster, Kog'Maw. He would have struck me as a sniper just based on his range, but I get it. Tier three mystic, so there's your replacement mystic, but apparently not a healer because it's Cassiopeia. Tier four sorcerer Victor. Tier five protector Urgot. Urgot in particular seems pretty nuts, but he's a tier five, so it makes sense.
yeah. So looking at it, it's nice to have like two brawlers that low cost. Something that's going to be pretty easy to throw in. Kind of similar to like how we have the vanguards that early. So just like another kind of tanky style start.
Yeah, and
Nocturne,
it really
Nocturne's
legitimizes Brawler
okay,
being your starting frontline, like
right?
Vanguards are for most
Yeah.
comps right now.
And a lot of these, and I'll probably mention it two or three times while I go over them. I want to know what their ability is
Yeah, exactly.
because that like changes a lot. Like, what is Alawi gonna do? Is she gonna bring down her tentacles, or is she gonna like do her like jump step kind of thing? Um, and then Nocturne, like he's the infiltrators. Are we gonna see a return of our blender style Nocturne where he just constantly spins all the freaking time?
Spin
Or
to
are we
win.
gonna, yeah, are we gonna see like a fear? Like the fear would be really cool to see. There hasn't been a fear in this game as far as I can remember, but that would be honestly really cool to see, along with maybe his Q, because I don't see his W staying in. It just doesn't make sense. Um, Kog'Maw, like you said, Sniper feels a little bit better, but I think Blaster is a good case here. It's not a bad kind of trait on Kog'Maw itself. I would like to see what he's going to have as his ability, or if he just like kind of scales up with attack speed every time, like maybe his like W proc from League. And like you said, Cassiopeia is not going to be like a healer mystic. Um, I wonder if she might have like something in her kit where she does heal because she does. That's part of her passive in League.
Yeah, it
Um,
mentions that she wrecks shields, so we'll see.
right.
I guess
So
maybe she does bonus damage to shields or something like that.
maybe so, or or maybe she's able to like spam her E or something like that, so it
Yeah.
just kind of depletes that shield pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
normally, historically, Mystics, at least in this set, have either they've healed or they've provided a buff. So I don't know if
Right.
maybe she provides a buff that where her allies can damage shields, or if they mean that she herself does it.
Right, and that's also like I know this was brought up on Mordog's stream. Honestly, like this past weekend is what about having a mystic that dealt damage? Because that's
Yeah,
like that comp has always been a comp to make your team tanky, essentially.
yeah,
And there's never anything that dealt damage. I mean, if we look at the four mystics we have currently, we had Sona and Soraka who just healed. We have um, Karma who gave a shield and gave attack speed, but
yeah.
like
She
she
boosted
didn't do
damage,
anything else.
especially
And
after
then
her
we
latest
had
buff. She helped deal a lot of damage.
right, and then we had Lulu who again doesn't do damage, but she provides
The
a
best CC in the
utility
game.
to
Yeah,
the best CC and gives more damage to those units
yeah.
to be taken. So, I mean, there's just not a damage dealer mystic, and so if Cassiopeia fits that, that honestly be really cool to see. Victor, I think, is just a great replacement for that loss to Vel'Koz.
Yeah.
Although I didn't think Vel'Koz was that great,
Still
but I feel
lasers,
like
right?
right, but I feel like Victor is either probably going to get his like Q or he's going to get his ulti.
Well,
Um,
they mentioned that that both he and Kog'Maw do percentage health damage. I assume that's
yeah,
with abilities as opposed to with auto attacks, but
right,
that also does serve to fill some of the void, for lack of a better
right.
term, that void you're
Exactly.
leaving.
So you get that percentage health damage. So that's really nice. And then Urgot, this is one thing I was really looking forward to is that would we get a higher cost protector in this?
Yes, I'm excited
And
for that.
so that's really nice because I mean we have a couple like decent protectors already. I mean I think Zenzao and Rakan are great. I think they work really well.
Oh yeah, and they're very
Jarvan has
splashable.
yeah Jarvan has really stepped up
Hmm.
since a couple of the buffs and
Super shredder.
other things. And I know he's getting nerfed now,
Yeah,
but he's been like really great in those comps. And then uh, your Nico's not the greatest protector, but she has that CC that really helps them be able to get more of their abilities off and be able to attack and do some damage. But Urgot being that tier 5 protector and them actually saying like can obliterate literally anything
yeah. I'm curious what that
um,
means as a protector.
is
Does
that I feel like he's going to be the carry and it's going
Yeah,
to be really cool to see. So I'm looking forward to the Urgot.
yeah. I generally don't like waiting until I can get a tier 5 to have my carry.
Yeah.
But if he maybe he'll be worth it. I've always
And
loved Urgot even when he was terrible. I've always loved him.
yeah.
So
And so my concern though with Urgot is like with the other protectors, you have a 1, a 2, a 2, and a 3,
yeah, yeah, big
which
gap.
are really easy to get like through level 6. And then like 7 and 8 are still pretty decent, but like to really reliably get that Urgot, you're gonna have to go level 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
You'll have to rush
can't
8.
Yeah, you can't really expect it. And rushing 8 in a protector comp just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, there's that dissonance there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they'll do with Urgot. I love Urgot as a champion in the game. So I'm curious what they'll do. I'm curious. It makes it seem like he's going to be a protector carry, which I you could build Xin Zhao to do kind of carry damage, but he was never your primary carry.
use your
Uh,
tank
yeah,
carry kind of
yeah.
thing. So
So I'm actually really excited for that.
yeah.
Um, what was another thing I was going to say about? Oh yeah, they mentioned that the buff is going to be pretty splashable, kind of like Dark Stars is right now. So I could see you either having just your backline, just your front line be battlecast. You could do an Alawi and Urgot, for example. You could have as your front line, or you could do say Victor and Kog'Maw as just your backline, or Splash Nocturne and Cassiopeia onto your Infiltrator
Mhm.
comp, something like that. So
Yeah,
uh,
and they mentioned like that starter comp to try out, but I honestly think like going like a protector route and then splashing in like the Cassiopeia with the Urgot if you get it, or the 2 cost battlecast, and then even you throw in one more mystic and now you have 2 mystics. Like that's not too bad right there.
No, not at all. So yeah, I'm all about new stuff. So I'm curious to try some of this out. Um, I'm especially excited to try and splash all 6. I don't know if it'll necessarily be the best version of it, but I just think the synergy will look really cool.
Yeah.
All right, next we have a smaller trait in Astro. This had actually been hinted at and rumored for a while. I think you told me about this even a few months ago that they were going to be introducing this. Um, Astro, which has there's 3 of them, or excuse me, there's 4 of them, and there's a 3 trait that reduces your Astro Champ's mana costs by 30, which depending on what their base mana costs are, could be absolutely massive.
Oh, I think it's actually going to be really good. I'm going to just step into the champions because to talk about that mana cost. So,
Yeah,
like, you have Nautilus, who's a tier 2 Vanguard. Whoop de doo, right? Like, we
yeah,
have so many freaking Vanguards.
yeah,
But this is kind of nice. There is one other tier 2 Vanguard in Mordekaiser.
yeah.
So, having Nautilus is kind of cool. Bard, who's a tier 3 Mystic. So, again, we have another Mystic.
Who's apparently
Um,
not a healer for some reason.
who's apparently not a healer, but also like doesn't do damage. I
Yeah.
don't think so. Like
Well, they mentioned I think that
I
he's going
just
to have Meeps.
yeah. So, but the meeps are different, so we'll get into that. And then
Yeah,
Nar, that tier 4 brawler. So this is going to be the change. So we lost Cho'Gath, but we gained Nar as a brawler, and that's going
yeah,
to be freaking ridiculous. So
yeah,
Nar from the first set, and this is a clone copy of the Nar from the first set, is what they mentioned,
yeah. They say he's getting
and
his shove.
that's going to be awesome. Like and in the first set, like if Nar ever went off, like you would almost always win that fight.
Yeah, if you get
Now,
a
if
good
Nar
ult.
didn't go off, you kind of lost it. So it was pretty sad.
It's
And
basically
then
like
Teemo,
if you get a good Darius combo or if you get a good MF ult, like it could totally change
right?
a game.
Yep. And it was the same way like with Cho'Gath. Like if you got that good Cho'Gath ulti, it could completely change a fight.
Absolutely.
But with Nars, it's just a little bit more ridiculous because I mean it's a knockback and it's going to be like it has a partial stud at the end of it too.
Does it
So I
do
mean,
damage or?
yeah, it does.
That's
So
awesome.
it's really dope. But
And it
I
says
really
Nautilus
like
has a stun
Nar.
as
So
well.
say that again.
It says
Yeah,
Nautilus
Nautilus
has a stun
stuns
as
too.
well.
Yeah. So I wonder if Nautilus does like if his autos just do the root or whatever um, every so often or so.
Yeah, all they say is he stuns the enemy's front line, so it could be it could be kind of like in League where it's just based on auto attacks, but
Yeah.
that could be
Yeah,
very
because I
useful.
know in set two when we had the Nautilus, it was actually his ulti, and he would just ulti the furthest unit from him,
Okay.
which is kind of great. But
Yeah. Like
I don't remember it
Rakan
like
basically,
knocking things up on its
or
way
Vi, I
either.
guess would
So,
be a comparable.
yeah, but it wouldn't like knock things up on its way. I don't think it might have, but I honestly can't remember. Um, but like being able to knock up that carry that's further away is kind of nice, but it's also like meh because they would just come back because nothing's around it, you
Yeah.
know. Um, so, but I do think this is cool that reducing the Astro Champ's mana cost by 30 is really nice, and we're gonna step into like the next segments because
Yeah.
that's gonna describe like what's really going on.
Yeah.
So we know Nar is the clone copy, so he's gonna transform and he's gonna alt based off of his league alt. So knocking them away or knocking them towards the team or whatever, but reducing that cost by 30 is crazy. So
Yeah.
something we would always do in set one is like if we got an additional mana cost item or anything like that, we'd put it on a Nar because you wanted that alt to go off.
To
So
go
the
off
faster you
twice or
could
three
go,
times in a fight.
uh, well, it would only go off the one time.
Oh, okay. You just needed
So
it sooner.
yeah, you just needed it sooner. So like as soon as he would go off, like uh, you could almost win a fight there. So once you get that mana on, it's really nice. So reducing his cost by 30 is great. I just think it's you have to have three. So I mean,
It's a
what are you
shame.
gonna do there?
It's a shame we're losing MF because it seems like that'd be great to combo with her ult.
Yeah, it could have been, or it could have knocked him out too. So,
Ah, fair.
but that's where the Cho'Gath ult was really good because the Cho'Gath would ult up, and then the MF would just clear what was on that Cho'Gath ult. The Gnar ult could move them around a little bit more. It is a tight map, so who knows? But
Yeah.
I just think this trait needing three is kind of rough
That's a lot. Yeah.
because just looking at them,
And with two of them being
they're
T4s.
they're honestly not that great together.
Yeah, to me, this seems a little bit like a utility trait, kind of like pirates are right now, where you use it to affect your economy, but obviously in this case, not coins, it's XP. So you build toward this to get Bard to potentially spam and give you extra XP. That way you can level up a little bit faster, and then you use that and then transition into a different late game comp.
Right, right. I see that as well, but it's also like you mentioned, two of them are tier four cost. So like
Yeah,
if you really wanted to do the Astro 3 trait to try to spam Bard, you're gonna have to be like level 5
yeah,
and get lucky almost. I
yeah,
think you can actually hit a 4. Can you hit a 4 cost at level 4? I don't think so. I think it's 5. I think
yeah.
5's the
That
first.
sounds right.
So I should know this, honestly. I'm asking you, but I don't remember my percentages very well. That's why I'm really glad they put it on the
Yeah,
board
in the
now.
game.
But
Yeah, me
so,
too.
but yeah, I just reducing that. But obviously, like you can get Bard to get your meeps without the trait. It's just
Right.
again, he's a 3 cost, and it's just gonna be pretty rough. So
Yeah,
I don't
if that's all he does, he doesn't seem very splashable.
I don't really like the trait too much, but I like the champions within the trait.
Me too.
So
And Teemo's gonna
Tar,
be
I
such
think
a
is
troll,
great.
I'm sure.
Teemo is going to be super cool.
He's gonna be such a troll.
I've been so excited for a Teemo in this
Yeah.
game for
Well,
a
and they gave
long
him the
time.
best
So,
skin too.
yeah, they gave him that Astro Teemo. So um, I do really like all these skins, though. They're pretty cool. And that that's really all I can think of. I think the idea of it was really cool, like reducing the cost by 30. Um, but I don't know how I feel. And like you said, like I mentioned this like 2 months ago
Yeah.
because I like thought about it. I was like, wait, we have astronauts in this game. Like,
Yeah.
why why wouldn't we have astronauts in this set? And so when they announced the mid set, I was like, oh, we're definitely getting astronauts because I'd already seen a leak of Bard, so it was
Yeah.
almost obvious that these were coming. And then of
So
course Lord Dog like tweeted it out. It was like, this is awesome, and it's like
maybe a little
just
underwhelmed.
give it away. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed on this, but we'll see what they do. They might kind of tweak it and change it up a little bit. So
yeah. It's
I
not.
know,
I wouldn't put it past them to
right?
tweak it as you go.
Yeah, I know Skara had talked a little bit about it today on stream, and he had mentioned that there's already changes to what we're seeing here
Oh
to
wow,
what was given to him a week ago.
wow. So they're
So
definitely in flux,
yeah,
and depending on how it plays in PBE, a lot of this could change.
right, exactly.
Cool, cool. Well, this next little section's pretty crazy. Um, so this is basically both a new champion and a new trait. The trait is Paragon. It's a one proc, and your team's basic attacks are converted to magic damage. And that trait comes from Janna, who is a tier 5 Star Guardian. Um, you don't necessarily have to use her in Star Guardian to get this trait because it's proc just by having her, kind of like a, I guess, mercenary would be a good example. Um, huge, huge. So
Yeah,
especially if you're facing so many comps, especially early game, are reliant upon a Vanguard front line. And obviously, we got some new Vanguards and some low cost ones, and this just shreds them.
I think Janna is going to be one of those champions that is really great to like splash in super late. So like, let's say I'm playing against like a Vanguard comp and I pick up a Janna and I just plug her in like the last 3 matches of the game or something, and I just auto win that comp because now I'm not doing um, attack damage, I'm doing magic damage.
Yeah,
Or vice versa. Like, what if I knock that guy out and there's still someone else, but I don't really need Janna for
yeah.
it, so I can just remove her from
Just
that
swap
comp
her
at
out.
that point.
Swap, like I could see you keeping, say, uh, if you roll into it, you keep, say, like a Lulu, a Janna, and a Zareth on your bench, depending on the matchup. You just swap them in.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. And so one thing that was pointed out while I was kind of like watching some videos earlier today is so on this trait, a week ago, it wasn't just your team's basic attacks are converted to magic damage. It had another line of text to it
Oh wow,
that was if or your Star Guardian's basic attacks are converted to true damage.
holy crap!
Yeah, so that's big, and I'm not surprised it's gone if
Yeah,
it's gone for good, because that's crazy strong when you're already like if you plug her into a Star Guardian comp, which you should
right,
absolutely
absolutely.
use her in Star Guardian now,
Yeah,
because she is a Star Guardian.
I would. You could use her in place of Nico.
No, I would still use Nico as like your tank.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like she would be almost better than like Soraka.
Yeah.
Uh, So, or like, because you'd always plug in like Lux, you might throw her in instead of the Lux,
Mm,
although you're missing your 4 sorcerer at that point.
yeah.
But I mean, more than likely, you're going to still be able to hit everything you need. You've got 3 Sorks, so really, like when you're level 7, you should have your 6 Star Guardians and your 4 Sorks already, because your level 7 should be your 4th Sork. And then, like, if you hit level 8, which is where you're probably going to try to go to grab this tier 5 champion, um, then you just plug her in as like a 7th Star Guardian. Um, so I think that's really crazy. So I think the true damage removal is great because like you're already doing a crap ton of magic damage with your Star Guardians in
Yeah.
the first place with their abilities, and then now their basic attacks are magic damage. Holy cow! Like that's insane. But I guess that wording could have also been nice because like if they throw in a bunch of mystics,
Right.
now your Star Guardian comp is just terrible because you're not doing any type of physical damage.
Yeah. And with
Uh,
2 new splashable mystics, we may they
right.
they that serves to balance us out a little bit, but it's still
Yeah.
just insanely strong.
Right. Exactly. And so again, like that could have been something too, where you just remove the Janus, so now your auto attacks don't do magic damage. But I feel like Star Guardians have always lost to like a 4 Mystic build.
Right.
So like even now with Janna,
It's
like
not
you
going
would
to
still
change it.
lose. It's not any change there. So,
Yeah. You may run
but
a Victor in that comp now. That may
uh,
help a little bit.
yeah, I think Janna is super good. Like
Yes.
this is crazy good, especially with her ability. Like it sounds like we're getting her
Her ult,
her
right?
tornado. No, I think it's the tornado, maybe.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right. Yeah, it says
So
knocks enemies up and boosts allies' attack speed. So
yeah,
yeah, that's the
so
that's the tornado.
yeah, so it looks like we're getting the tornado, and then we're also boosting ally attack speed. So I mean,
I'll be curious what our
depending on
mana
how that
cost is on that
boost
because
allies
it's
attack speed
yeah,
is going to be crazy. So this actually might do really well for blasters.
yeah.
So like you plug it in, and now like your Jinx is doing magic damage to the Vanguard front line.
So I'm
Like
curious if it has to
that's
pass through your allies to boost their attack speed, or if it's just more global. And
maybe
I'm
so. And
curious how the mana cost is because obviously if it's low mana cost, then it'll be very spammable in
yeah,
Star Guardians.
yeah, I wouldn't think that it's going to be low mana cost, but I think it'll be kind of mid range,
Yeah,
something like 100 or so,
100. Yeah.
starting with 0 maybe. But yeah, it that looks pretty good. And so I'm wondering if it's going to be similar to like a Yasuo tornado from set 1, which pretty much covered the entire board when you like 2-start him.
Oh, cool. Oh,
So if
it
it's
grew
something
based
like
on his
that,
level.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's something kind of similar, maybe something similar to that. That'd be cool. And like you said, maybe it has to pass through your team. So like if you uh, like get her to like a 2 cost, then or a 2-star, then maybe that's what it does, and then you get it through your entire team. But I really want to see more of her spell, just based on that attack speed. But just the utility she brings with her trait is just
Yeah.
insanely good. I think that's
She's
awesome.
she seems very very spammable, like a lot of the other tier fives are. So.
Yep.
And I think I was going to say except for Echo, but as we'll go into a little bit, he may be more spammable. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
and I think like what they've kind of alluded to is they want more 5 cost champions that are more versatile.
Yeah,
They want them to be able to splash more and comps outside of just their main comp. So like obviously Jenna here does really well with Star Guardians, but like she could do really well in almost any other comp.
yeah. And Vanguard front lines aren't going away anytime soon,
Definitely
even
not.
based on this. So
Yeah.
this rundown. So she's basically the counter to them. So
And we're about to see it, but they're going to get even stronger too
right.
if you decide to go like full Vanguard.
Yeah.
Which,
Which why wouldn't you at this point?
yeah,
Any other thoughts on anything we've hit so far?
we're good.
All right. So next they go into changes to a couple of traits, a couple of champions. Um, as far as traits, they're buffing 4 and 6. We alluded to earlier that 4 never felt good. 2 felt pretty good. 6 obviously was really good, especially if you had a secondary carry. And then they are adding an 8-piece bonus, uh, which to me makes me think they're going to add, because I don't think right now you can get a Chrono Spat, right?
No, you can't. I think there's 7 chronos though, because you have TF, Caitlyn, Shin, Blitz, Ezreal, Thresh. I feel like I'm missing one, and Wukong. So you have 7.
Yeah. So
So
you would have to have a Spat, right?
no, you would because now that we're getting Riven, that's your
Oh,
8.
Riven, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the 8 piece there, which is really cool. I like seeing those 4 breakpoint kind of traits. We've had a couple in the past, but this one's kind of nice as well. But like we mentioned earlier, I want to see what those buffs are to Chrono 4 and 6.
yeah,
Are they actually going to be useful now? Because I really think Chrono is going to be a really good trait to use. So
yeah. And Riven's gonna be so good, as you were saying earlier, that it'll be nice to have her squad.
yep, exactly.
And you could potentially build AP and then Shojin on her, and that she would obviously recharge really quickly.
Yep.
Dark Star breakpoints at 2, 4, 6, and 8 instead of 3, 6, and 9, and now buffs Dark Star champions off of any ally's death, not just other Dark Stars. This was interesting to me. Dark Stars was already pretty strong in a lot of the top comps. This just makes it even better.
Yeah, I think something that was pointed out, and you kind of touched it earlier. Darkstar was kind of splashable. Yes, that's true because of the 3 trait, but the 3 trait was really bad. So it wasn't that great. It's even more splashable now, being at a 2, and it can be any ally's death. So I mean, like if I just throw in 2 Dark Stars, I already get that trait. Now I'm not going to get that full impact like I would have with 6 in the past, or even 3. Like I wouldn't expect the 2 breakpoint to be the same as the 3 is now. It's probably going to be a little bit less, and the 4 is going to be a little bit above the 3. But having that 2, and then it's off of any ally's death. So I
Yeah,
mean, like I throw in a Jin, and then maybe I throw in like one more uh, Dark Star, whatever it might be.
Yeah, Jin was
Uh,
already super splashable, just
right,
very strong, and we're gonna talk in a little bit
and
about
that was just based off of the sniper too. Like
yeah,
he wasn't splashable because Darkstar was the sniper, but like
exactly.
what if I just threw in like a Jin and a Karma to
Yeah,
protect the Jin a little bit,
yeah.
and now like anything that dies is coming to my Jin. Like that's gonna be crazy
Or they
strong.
they can't seem to get a handle on Shaco. He always seems like super strong no matter what they do to him.
Right, exactly. And Shaco could be too. Like in an infiltrator build, you just throw in one more Darkstar, and
Yep.
now like anything that dies just goes to Shaco. Like
Hmm.
Shaco is gonna be pretty strong as well again, I think.
Especially with an item change that we're going to talk about in a little bit. All right. Mech pilot. The mech and pilots are all getting a lot of buffs. They don't go into what those are, but that'll serve to balance out what they say next. Now, when the mech dies, the pilots come out quite damaged. Again, we don't know what that exactly that means. What are your thoughts there?
Um, so the mech has always been something that they've struggled with.
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome concept, but it's something really hard to get around. It's this big, bulky thing that has like five different traits or whatever,
Yeah.
or no, four, because mech pilot, sorcerer, infiltrator, and demolitionist. Um, so it's something crazy, but it's also kind of cool. But they're going back to buffing it. So we had an insanely strong mech in the past. Now all the mech itself and the pilots are all going to get rebuffed
Yeah.
because they've pretty much been nerfed to almost unplayable. It's still okay. It's not terrible, but it's like not the best either. It's one of those things where like if you're going it and you're the only one going it, it's going to be insanely good. Whereas in the past, like yes, like one person needed to go it, and if someone else went, y'all are going to go seventh and eighth. But like you would still feel really strong, even if you went eighth place. It's just that you weren't as strong as what you could be. Whereas now it's kind of different. Like you probably won't see one, but every like 4 or 5 games. But coming out damaged, I think is actually really good. So that was the big thing is like you would just tank up like a Rumble or an Annie, just depending on who
Yeah.
you have at the time, and they would almost be unkillable coming out of the mech. So you had this
And
unkillable machine,
and Fizz
and then
always
you
had a
have
Fizz,
another unkillable champ.
and then
So
Fizz always had a guaranteed ult basically.
yeah, exactly. So I think it sounds like they're probably going to keep around the mana buff
Yeah.
or the mana that they get, and they've already nerfed that, I believe, at least once. But the damage is going to be pretty brutal to the mech itself. So I'd like to see that, and they might even change that. I would feel like so like if they end up seeing that like nobody's running the mech because like they come out way too damaged, they'll probably change it to where it's a little bit less damage. But I do think that is a good, not nerf or buff. It's a good kind of just um,
Quality of life
revert,
change. Yeah.
yeah, quality of life change to that mech pilot itself. So I think
Y-
that's fun.
And as you mentioned, it's been tough to balance mech pilots. Probably the thing they've changed the most in the incremental updates. So we'll see, and it's certainly subject to change. And then you already alluded to earlier, there's a bit of an indirect nerf to mech pilot in that there's no demo spat.
Yep.
All right, sniper now has breakpoints at 2 and 4. We got another sniper, so that makes sense. I already liked running 3 snipers just because of how good that 2 sniper buff is. We'll see what 4 looks like, but it definitely seems playable.
Yeah, I would definitely expect a nerf to the two breakpoint. Obviously, it's now like the weaker breakpoint of it. But yeah, we gained two snipers, so we actually gained the Vayne and we gained the Timo.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So we have five, and so I mean now your three might become five if that four
Yeah.
breakpoint is pretty good. So, but yeah, I think this is a big buff to sniper. We obviously have some good changes to snipers already with the additional of Vayne and Timo. And then Timo sounds like he's going to do magic damage by throwing his shrooms out too.
Yep.
So he's not even doing that um,
Conventional snipering
auto
thing.
attack
Yeah.
damage of the sniper. He's going to do some magic damage around it too. So he's got some flexibility there.
And then you could always spam a Janna.
Yep, exactly.
And this actually pairs really well with this next line. Vanguard now has breakpoints of 2, 4, and 6. Obviously, one of the premier front lines that would probably pair really well with Sniper.
Yep. Um, we already currently have it with the sniper vanguards, and
Mhm.
I think this is pretty great. We gained some vanguards anyway, so increasing it to 6 is pretty obvious to do. I guarantee you that 6 trade is going to be very, very tanky.
I'm sure.
So if we didn't have changes to the Poppy, Poppy would have been really scary.
I think she probably still will be.
Yeah,
She's not quite as strong without AP buffs, but I still think she'll be very playable.
yeah, probably so.
And we'll see. I mean, it really depends on how good these new vanguards are, whether you're going to drop her or not. I think generally you would sub out your Leona, but once you got to the late game, depending on your comp. But um, we'll see how it goes. Anything else on those traits before we get into champions? All right. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, something's
Awesome.
like ringing on my side. I don't know what it is.
That may have been from my computer. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right. Back in it. Champions. I like this change a lot. Ezreal, now much more utility focused and able to cast much sooner, but deals less damage. What do you think there?
um, I think the cast much sooner is way too late. I think this should have happened probably like 7 patches ago.
Yeah, I find I sub out my when I'm playing Chrono, I sub out or even Blasters, I would sub out Ezreal so often just because
Yeah,
his ult is pretty good, but like he would be dead before he could cast it.
yeah. The utility he brings is really great. I think that's super awesome, but he just hardly ever casted. So he was almost in there just to serve as a place filler for whatever trait you needed. So I think this is a great change for Ezreal, and I'd like to see a little bit more. Losing that damage kind of removes the potential for an Ezreal kind of carry comp,
Yeah,
which is something I really liked in set two. He didn't have his W like he does in this set, but he had his Q. And I mean, if you stack tiers on him, he would pretty much be spammable. And then he was a glacial in that set, so he could actually stun people as well. So it
yeah.
was quite
I think
cool.
I even did an Ezreal carry video this set, but
Yeah, and
I think I built him AD.
yeah,
But
it's just so rough,
yeah,
so
depending
rough.
on when they say much more utility focused, obviously they're very vague on some of these notes right now, but it could still be that you'd go back to building that a mana build on him depending on how that utility works.
Yeah, I think he still keeps his W and focuses that utility on it because the utility is like a mana reaver essentially.
Yeah,
So I think that's where it's going to be, and so he's still going to be that utility focused champion, but being able to cast much sooner is going to allow him to be much more utility focused.
next we have Syndra. If she kills her target, extra orbs move on to the next target. They put an exclamation point on that because it's such a big deal. Never waste an orb again. Uh,
Yeah, this is a great change. So
Huge buff.
yeah,
Um,
I think that's all there is to Syndra is that
yeah,
this is a great change, and she's going to become even more murderous.
you basically always ran her if you had any sorcerers on your comp anyway, and this will just make her even better.
Yeah, I agree.
Assuming they don't, balance out mana to about offset it or something like that. But more likely than not, you're going to keep spamming her on sort comps. This is huge. Jin attack speed now scales with star level, so this Dark Star Killer's 3-star form is even scarier. He was already a monster even at 2-star, so his 3-star form getting an attack speed, well, it looks like 2-star and 3-star getting an attack speed buff from what it sounds like, pretty huge. And then as we mentioned, the changes to Dark Star, having a lower break point, he's going to be even more spammable.
Yeah, so Gen 3-star was already scary. Like, and you're saying he's even scarier?
Yeah,
Like that?
I don't think I've ever lost with a
I
3-star
think
Jin.
that's like one of those things where, like, if I see somebody 3 stars at Jin, I'm surrendering.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I know I've probably lost that game. So,
Unless you're running Infiltrator or something.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I just use Zed and hope that Zed can attack him and
I hope
get
so.
rid of his attack
Yeah.
damage. But I mean, his attack damage is scaled with his attack speed, so that's gonna be pretty scary.
Onto another clear buff. Aurelion Soul fighter ships now drain enemies' mana if they're making no other changes to it. I love running him with a demo spat. Obviously, we can't do that anymore, so that won't be as potent. But maybe this will serve to offset it a little bit.
Yeah, so I think this is a decent change, but it's also awful at the same time because he already hits so many units, and now he's going to just drain their mana. I would like to see the text behind that drain. Is it going to be like a mana reaver drain where it's only like their cast is increased by 40%, or is it going to be like
Flat.
set one demons where it literally would drain the mana from them no matter what it was. So like if they were already draining you, they could still drain you some more.
And
So
does drain mean that he gets it from them and then can cast more often?
that's not how demons was set up, and I wouldn't expect that's how it's going to be set up, especially with how low mana cost he already is, and he
Yeah.
kind of gets his ult so quickly.
Yeah.
So I definitely wouldn't expect that, but that would be a pretty unique kind of way. But if this is drain mana and it constantly drains the mana, that's just going to be pretty scary.
Yeah.
I think Aurelion Sol is going to come back into the fold, even though he already is, and it's just going to be
Yeah.
quite frightening.
So you'll have to fit Zed into almost any time you run Rebels, and then it sounds like uh, late game you may still go Aurelion Sol.
Right.
He was popular for a while there, especially with demo spat. Kind of fell off recently, but you think this is a net buff, even losing out on that stun?
Yeah, I think it's quality of life
Yeah.
in terms of losing that stun. It just kind of mixes in.
So this is at least to me another clear cut huge buff that'll make a big difference here, especially with some of the mentions to Cyber that we talked about earlier. Echo casts sooner and attacks a number of times instead of every enemy once. So if the enemy team only has a few champions left, he'll hit them multiple times. Obviously, that's going to have a pretty huge effect if he ends up casting 2 or 3 times. So it depends on what they mean by cast sooner. I assume that means that he starts with more mana as opposed to it being a lower cost. But either way, if he casts multiple times, that makes a huge difference. And he also slows the attacks of enemies he hits. So basically a free Frozen Heart. Sounds like a pretty clear buff to what was probably the worst tier 5 champion.
Yeah, I think Echo was really great early on, and then when cybernetics were really big, the 6 traits cybernetics that is, I think he was really great. He wasn't always the best to stack. You would pretty much stack him with mana items, but the casting sooner is great. The slowing, the free Frozen Heart is awesome. I'm concerned, honestly, about the attacks a number of times instead of every enemy once. So it's great for when there's less champions on the board. So if he's attacking 7 times and there's only 3 champions on the board, awesome.
Yeah, but
That's great. But
if
like,
there's 10 on the board,
yeah, if it's only like 3 times and there's 10 on the board, well,
yeah.
good luck,
And
right? Like,
what if this scales based on level or something, and
yeah,
you hardly ever get to two star him?
and I guarantee you it's going to scale based on level. So once you get that 2 star, he might do it more, but it's still going to be kind of rough. So I do think it is a good buff, but the number of times that's going to be his downfall if it's too tiny.
Could be really good, or it could be. I mean, I don't see
That
this as any way he could be worse,
yeah,
but he may not be quite as good as it sounds on paper.
right. He's definitely better later in the fight, which is how he's now is when he would ult is later in that fight.
Yeah,
So I mean, he would hit 1 or 2, and then it's like, well, that sucked. But then like now he hits that 1 or 2, but he hits it 3 times each. That's actually pretty cool.
pretty
So I
big
think
deal.
that
Yeah,
attack a number of times is going to make or break this champion.
excellent. All right, moving on to items. At face value, this seems absolutely crazy. Infinity Edge now sets the holder's critical strike chance to 100%. Also does less bonus damage. So pretty much a huge buff to everybody that uses it, barring maybe Shaco.
Yep, I agree. That's
Uh,
going to be pretty scary.
I was talking with my friend Lucas about this earlier today. It seems like this is now the best item in the game.
Yeah, and I think it's already been a pretty strong item in the game. I don't know if it was the best, but it was definitely probably like top 5 to 10, um, which is quite crazy.
Yeah, it seems like if you can get it, this is a must build for any of your attack damage carries, any of your
Yep.
snipers, any of your blasters.
I'd
Uh,
like to see how this works with Janna too.
oh yeah,
So
that's a
like,
good
do I
question.
crit with magic damage as my auto? Like that'd be crazy. But I guarantee you that's what happens.
Yeah, yeah, huge buff. There, it seems to me like this would serve to replace some other items that you may have built on your blaster carries before. Rapid fire cannon, and now in addition to the extra range, your attacks can't miss. Again, I guess it used to do that.
Yeah, and set one rapid fire would allow you to never miss. So they had a trait in set one that was called Yordles. So it was just all the Yordles in that set,
Cute.
and Yordle's trait was that there's a percentage that the attacks would miss.
Like Jax, basically.
Yeah, pretty much like, well, Jax in set two, and then Jax even in League, like when he has his E, it's like an automatic miss.
Yeah,
So he dodges it. But that was the same thing with Yordles, but it would be like a 50 to
a percentage
70%
chance.
chance.
Wow.
So it was quite rough. But then you just build a rapid fire on a carry, or just build magic damage or something, and you could wreck through them. So that was back in that set. You would put a rapid fire on Volibear one, so he would be further away when he's attacking instead of in their face and taking damage, but also so he would not miss those Yordles.
So pretty nice change. Basically overrides any blinds that you're running into.
Yeah. I don't know if it would override a blind. We've
Oh,
never had that interaction, so maybe it overrides the Graves blind, but I think it's more so the percent chance to miss if somebody has like a glove type of item on them.
okay,
Um,
okay,
so so now you don't miss those,
okay.
which could be really good. I know I've seen a couple games where like a Jin missed like three autos in a row and ends up losing the fight
Well, and
because
now everybody's going to be building Infinity Edge, so they're going to have dodge.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Seraph's Embrace replaced by a Summoner. I don't know why they said "an." Replaced by a Summoner Rift Classic blue buff. After each spell cast, the holder's mana is set to 20. Um, I may need this explained to me how that's different.
I'm questioning it myself.
Because before it recovered 20 mana, right? And you started off with 0 after each spell cast. So isn't that effectively the same?
I feel like it is.
Okay, maybe I'm missing
Uh,
something, but it seems the same to me.
so Saris Embrace has regained 20 mana each time a spell is cast.
Yeah, because
So
nobody gets extra mana when they're done. Oh wait, does this mean you can't stack it?
maybe so.
Maybe that's the difference is that you
Yeah,
can't stack it
yeah.
because it says the holder's
But
mana is set to 20 instead of your mana is increased by 20.
but why couldn't we just keep Saris and then them just place a only one piece to a
Yeah, make it a
champion?
unique. Yeah,
Yeah, make it a unique like Morello and
that way you
Red
don't
Buff.
get the what did they call what is that hammer from Smash Brothers where you like hit all the time? That way
Oh,
you
the
can't have
hammer.
that. Yeah, the hammer. Yeah, that way you can't have Hammer Darius where he just constantly ults.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, I think that's what it is. So it's set to 20. So yeah, I think if you stack it, it only goes to 20.
So that's the difference, and that's a pretty big difference. That
That's huge.
that
Like,
seems like a pretty big nerf to Shaq and Kobe.
yeah, rip Kobe, man.
Like that, I think that comp is. I mean, unless they do something else to balance it out, that comp may be donezo.
Yeah, yeah. At least that portion of the comp. I think Rebels will stay around, but
Well, Rebels,
Shaq and
you'll still
Kobe
play
will
Rebels, but you
explode.
just won't. Ziggs won't be your carry. Maybe Zed's your
Yep,
carry.
yep, exactly.
Demolitionist Charge, rest in pepperonis. Join the Battlecast lineup. Replace with Battlecast armor. Grants the wear Battlecast trait, obviously. Um, I don't like that we won't have Demolitionist Charge. Obviously, we won't miss it because Kaisa's gone, but I will miss it on Aurelion Soul, like we talked about earlier. Um, and Battlecast does seem pretty spammable, though, so I think it's good that we have Battlecast armor.
Yeah, so I think Demolitionist was the most OP trait in this set,
Yeah.
especially only being a two trait kind of needed
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I mean, Demolitionist is really strong, but it is kind of crazy to see it leave because I think it flexed so well. It made things do some crazy stuff like
Yeah,
throwing in. Obviously, like if you have a Ziggs, you can just throw in a Gangplank to Rebels. But being able to get rid of the Ziggs if you're not running Shaq and Kobe and throw in an Aurelion Soul with the Demolitionist charge on it, and then you have your Demolitionist, and I think Aurelion Soul was the best Demolitionist charge
for sure.
unit outside of maybe Kaisa as
Yeah.
well. So um, I think that's a huge loss, but I know this is something that Mort Dog has pushed heavily on since like this set released.
It does feel
He
really bad to
hates
play
Demolitionist,
against,
so
so I,
yeah,
I get it.
and I mean, even then, like Kobe was like crazy strong. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you would
Well, this
literally
is
just like throw bombs constantly, and you just stun them, and it's like, bite champs just stand there.
this is effectively back-to-back nerfs to Kobe.
Yep, yep. Well, it can be because I mean, you could still run
Yeah, you could still run Rumble. You could still run
Gangplank or
Gangplank.
Rumble, yeah. So you still get that Demolitionist, which is normally what you would do. But if you got that charge, you would run Aurelion Soul
Yeah.
and then you should have more rebels, so then you can kind of stack rebels on it. So
You get an extra shield. Yeah.
yep.
It's a pretty big loss. I'm gonna miss it, especially on Aurelion Sol. It was just so cool. It felt like crap to play against, so I get why they were removing it, but it felt
Yeah,
so great to play.
and I think that's where it comes into is just awful to play against.
Yeah.
It was like the old glacial or whatever. So just being able to stun things constantly and then you just never move, it just felt terrible to play against. Or old Leona as well. Leona, um, back in set one, would have her ulti, and so then like when she would ult, you just stand there for like 5 seconds.
Jesus. That's brutal.
Yeah,
All right, so some of the less exciting stuff. No new galaxies in 1012, but they're removing Lilac Nebula. I actually like Lilac Nebula quite a bit. How do you feel about that?
I'm on the fence. So like them telling me they're removing it is like, oh, awesome, like great, like Lilac. I I think it's a different reason why I hated Lilac, but I really, my reason for it was that it made me so toxic. Like that
Yeah.
that one galaxy made me so toxic and mad, and it made other people the same way too. Like you would see it in
Like
chats
if
all
you
the
didn't
time.
get your Jinx or what?
Well, like if I got Jinx, it's like I'm going blasters. You
You have
don't
to.
go blasters, right?
Yeah.
Like I have Jinx, or if I got Kale, I'm Kale. You know, like
Yeah.
everybody would be that way. Or you grab the Fizz, me Mech. Like, uh, no, like that's not how
Yeah, that's
this
not
game
how it
works.
works. Yeah.
Um, but I understand it. Like I got the champ, the hardest, one of the hardest champs to get for this comp.
Yeah.
I'm going this comp and I'm
Yeah.
going to fight you for it. So it just made me so mad to play that galaxy and then see someone else running the exact same comp as
And
me
just
and
denying you.
contesting those units.
Yeah.
And then it's like, dude, like I had these units. Like, what are you doing with your life? So
Yeah.
it
I
does make me
was
sad, but it was also rough because like you would get the 4 star, and then it's like I got a Jinx with a tier on it.
Oh yeah, if you didn't get the right item, it felt like crap.
Yeah, so the times where you did get the right item, a Jinx with a bow or a
Yeah.
BF sword or a Jin with a BF sword or a Kale with a bow, like oh god, this is gonna be a crazy good game. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it
almost as
was
bad as
rough when you did not get it.
what's the one where you get 2 stars from the carousel? That one, if you get the wrong item, feels so awful.
Yeah, yeah, I agree as well. Like if it's the champ you want and it's the
Yeah.
wrong item, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Starting in 1013, we'll be adding and removing one galaxy each patch for the remainder of the galaxy set. So that means a lot of variety incoming. That is awesome.
Yeah, so I think this is great. I really like the galaxies. I feel like some of them could be gone away with medium legends and little
Oh,
legends,
Little
but
Legends sounds
um,
awful.
so I don't like medium legends, and I'm gonna guess I'm gonna not like little legends for a similar reason. But
Oh, Little
I
Legends.
haven't played it yet, so give me. I'll
It's like
have to play a couple games
rest in
first.
pepperoni slow rolling on Little
Yeah,
Legends.
exactly. But I do feel like it provides more. Like I need to be better early game.
Yeah,
That way I stay healthy.
I struggle to slow roll. Like
Yeah,
I hate losing. I'm that competitive. So it's
yeah,
probably honestly a boon to my play style. Like there's so many games where I'm on like a 15 win streak and I end up getting like fourth. But I did good early game, right? So maybe this is a boon to my play style, but
could be.
yeah, I don't
But
know.
I
I
think
think for
this is
everyone
cool.
besides me that actually plays the game correctly, this is going to be pretty awful.
Yeah, so I think the removal of one galaxy is good because we're
Yes.
needing to remove as many as possible because we're gaining so many. So like
Yeah.
that's the only reason is that it feels like if we wouldn't have done it, everything would have just been a new galaxy.
I'm excited to see what the new ones are. I love when I hit one that I actually like. So I'm excited that they're going to be introducing variety. Though I will say, I do breathe a sigh of relief when it's a normal galaxy.
Sometimes I do too, but then it's also like, man, I've played so many galaxies that I don't want to play a normal anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. You get spoiled, right?
Yeah.
All right. Some quality of life changes here. Tier 3 champ pool expanded from 16 copies to 18 copies of each. Nice quality of life change. Anything really to say on that?
Yeah, so this is actually nice because it opens up that uh, you don't just have one person taking the tier 3 carries, and
Yes.
then like I'm kind of stuck out of it. So like now there might be a Dark Star comp with the Shaco 3 and an Infiltrator comp with the Shaco 3. So
Yeah.
that's kind of nice. It expands it a little bit. So kind of cool, but it could make some things kind of crazy.
And then there's another note in here in a little bit that kind of meets the same criteria too. So we can actually skip ahead to that one. Nico's help always works now. If there's nothing left in the pool, Nico will create a temporary extra champion just for you. So
Yeah, so
smart.
I don't know if anybody actually knew that. So it's something that I've kind of seen here and there, and then obviously they had a patch uh, probably about a month ago that mentioned this. But like if you used a Nico on a champion and there was none left in the pool, you would lose a Nico until like that patch where they made it to where it would say like no champion available or something like
Yeah,
that,
luckily I
and
never
then
ran
you'd keep
into
your
it.
Nico.
I never ran into
So
it until that change, but then I ran
yeah,
into it and it still felt awful.
yeah. So like no one really knew that. I feel like it was
I
one of those
definitely
hidden
didn't.
things
Yeah.
that like not a lot of people knew. But I think this is really cool. So it kind of actually expands the champion pool.
Yeah.
So
Especially
instead of like that
especially on the
18
Nico
copy,
Galaxy.
right? And so like, but it's also like, do I really need it? Because I guess it's there if like, let's say I have 8 copies of a Shaco and the person I'm playing against has 9, and then there's another person that has 1 because he sees that we both have all these, and maybe he just took that 1 to kind of stop both of us, but then one person hit it. So now, like, that's the last Shaco. Well, I have a Nico. I'm just going to use it and get it back. And so now he's kind of wasted his gold, although he'll get it back by selling it. So it's kind of nice. It just prevents the griefing of people taking units just to stop you a little bit. But I also feel like that's a portion of the game that you should kind of be aware and
It's a play
know.
style. It's a
Yeah,
strategy.
it's play style. It's a strategy. So
So it removes a little bit of strategy, but maybe also removes a little bit of toxicity.
I guess a little bit, but I feel like it's more strategy than toxic to do that.
Yeah.
Like, like if I see someone has 8 Irelias, I'm going to take all the Irelias I see
Eight
because I
Irelias
don't want him
and
to
two
have a 3-star.
IEs.
Yeah, exactly.
That was actually another thing on the IE. Do you feel like you're still, and sorry to circle back so far, but do you still feel like you're going to build two on the same champion?
I don't think you would now, honestly. I think that's is that going to be similar, I guess, to Saris at that point, where it just sets it to 100. So if I have 2, it's not 200 now; it's just 100.
Yeah, I would think so because it
So
just
I,
sets it.
yeah. So
So I guess you'd only be getting bonus damage, but I assume you could probably get more damage out of other items,
right, exactly. So
especially against tanks.
maybe you go like IE Deathblade.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot to bring that up earlier. Last thing here, champions now sell back for their full value. Example, 2-star copies of 3-cost champs will sell for 9 gold instead of 5. Another pretty big change, especially if you're re-rolling a lot.
This is ridiculously awesome. Like this promotes the reroll. Because like when I'm taking or when I'm doing my full down reroll or whatever, I'm gonna take those cost of units to get them out of the pool. But like if it's a 2 cost I'm searching for, I don't want to build a, a 2-star unit of it because I don't want to lose gold, right?
Yeah,
So I'm not going to do that. But now I can, and I still get my gold back. So it's like I'm going to get quite a bit more gold still to even roll with, because I essentially gained that gold to still roll with at the end. So I think this is pretty crazy, but it is a cool change. I've always wondered why, but I figured it was just because of
a balance thing.
I've leveled it up, and so I leveled it up. I need to pay the cost of doing that. So that's why I didn't get all my gold back.
Yeah, pretty. I mean, it seems like a minor change. They just snuck it under other here, but it actually makes a really big difference for reroll comps, especially, or for maybe you're transitioning to a comp late game, which actually may happen quite a bit with some of the stuff they release. So
Yeah, I think it's super. I think it's really crazy on the like 4-star units because like when you hit that 8, you're probably gonna start taking 4-star units. So then you
yeah,
have a better chance at the one you want. So now you're saying like when I see 10 Sorakas, I could just buy them all,
Just buy them, yeah,
even though I can't buy 10. Like I see 9, so I buy them all and I 3-star it and then I sell it back.
yeah,
Like, like, okay, because that's what happens to me. I roll for a Jinx or I roll for a Kale and I see Soraka.
yeah.
So,
And kind of to our conversation earlier, it helps justify denying a lot late game too.
yep. Yeah. Oh, it does. Oh, it definitely does now. Like, I could, oh my God, I didn't even think of that.
Like it
Holy
falls
cow.
kind of in line with that previous
Yeah.
discussion.
But now I buy 3 Irelias or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
just and then as soon as that guy dies, you can just sell him.
yep, exactly. Or heck, I might just throw it in my comp at that point.
She's definitely splashable, especially with that. Well, I don't know. That IE change is kind of a net neutral for her, but
Yeah,
for the AD carries, it's a huge buff.
right. All right.
Well,
Just
that
real quick,
yeah.
what's your favorite little legend, the new one?
Oh,
Light Charger, Bellswayer, or Nixie?
I didn't even. Where can I see those?
I got it. I'll send it to you. I'm posting it in the Discord chat.
Sure. That's like the most important thing.
This also has like some of the news about the Galaxy 2 pass, so the next pass that they're going to have in 2 weeks. Uh, not
Oh,
too
okay.
much
I'll
difference,
probably end up
honestly,
getting it
but
just so I can get some more little legends.
yeah, not too much difference. I like the little Star Guardian ones we're going to get.
Oh
Those are
God,
kind
that's
of cool.
cute.
Those are kind of cool. And then, but the new ones, so Light Charger, Bellswayer, or Nixie.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm
That's
a
so
fan of
tough.
Nixie because it looks like a monkey.
It does.
I have a weird
This
obsession
is
with
like
monkeys,
choosing a
man.
starter Pokemon.
I know.
I think I'm on Light Charger. I think Light Charger is
Oh,
my
okay.
early favorite.
Light Charger is definitely my second favorite.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
think
say
Light
that.
Charger is my early favorite here.
Pretty close. I would like to see the other skins of it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think it's
Buy
got a
out
lot of
all the
potential.
Nixie ones. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely gonna get the pass. I hesitated so much on the pass last half set. I'm probably gonna get it immediately on this
Are
one.
you glad that you got it
Oh,
though?
for sure. Well,
Okay.
because what's that guy that I like a lot? Shoot, I can't remember him.
Squink?
Squink, yes, Squink. Squink is my favorite, and I got like 3 Squinks, so
Oh, that's
it was
awesome.
totally worth it.
I'm totally jealous. I still want the Tutti Frutti Squink.
Oh,
I
I
need to
want that too. I
try
think
to get
I
it.
have like the regular one and then the Galaxy one. It always feel because I only got tier one ones, and I always feel bad when I load in with the tier one and then like the guy next to me has the tier two one. It always feels like he's the cooler Daniel.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm Team Light Charger. Cool. Well, any other thoughts on the mid set updates or anything else you wanted to bring up?
I'm really excited for it.
Me too.
That's
It's a lot of
pretty much
changes and a
all I
lot
have.
of good
Yeah.
changes. It's like a totally different game. It
Yep.
feels I wasn't around for the other sets, but it feels like almost as many changes as they would make for a new set.
I would feel the same way, although the new sets are obviously a lot more.
Right.
But because it's like a full revamp, you might have a few reworks here and there or similar ones. Like Ash, this set is the same as Ash set one, minus the sniper. She was uh, a ranger, I think is what it was called. But yeah, so I really like it. I'm glad they're
Well,
kind of keeping the set around because I
yeah.
really do enjoy Galaxies, especially a lot more than I liked Rise of the Elements. That one was not a very fun set.
So what would you say you're most excited to try out?
Um, Probably Riven. I think Riven, and I know that's like obviously,
Yeah.
but outside of Riven, I think Timo or Nar.
Yeah. Nar's been super fun.
I
And
miss the old Nar, so I'm really excited to see him back.
obviously you can use them in conjunction.
Yeah.
I think I'm most excited for Vayne. I love snipers. I'm excited to run maybe like a Cyber 4 sniper comp or maybe 4 Vanguard 4 sniper.
Right. Yeah. I think Bane's gonna be pretty cool too.
I'm excited for that, and I assume they're going to do a really good job with their animations and all that. So,
Yeah.
well, cool. I really appreciate the your time and the expertise you brought to this, especially with regard to some of the previous sets. Any closing thoughts or anything you wanted to promote?
No, not really. I occasionally stream too, but that's just Twitch TV / DaGranny. But That's
That
pretty much it.
is it the underscore or
No, it's just DaGranny.
so
No underscore.
DAGRANNY? All right,
Yeah.
cool, cool. Well, thanks again, and
Oh, and shout out to the bot man for getting that shiny bronzor in
oh
your
yeah,
chat.
I saw that.
That's my that's my boy. He's not really my boy. I don't know who that is, but
Hey, but we are
I'm
now
proud of him. I'm proud of him because I did it too.
yeah, we are now all three brothers in owning a shiny bronzor.
Oh yeah, I have two
Oh, I only have one. I'm a
though.
scrub. I only have one.
That's okay.
Cool. Well, thanks again, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Yep. Thanks.